I never thought a single dare could change everything. It started innocently enough, over drinks with my friends one Friday night. We were laughing, teasing each other about dares we'd never dare to do. And then it happened. "You're too chicken to go on a date dressed as a girl," Mark said, grinning. "I dare you. One night. Outfit, makeup, the whole thing. Let's see if he even recognizes you." I froze. My heart skipped a beat, part fear, part excitement. Me? Crossdress? On a real date? With someone I liked? "You wouldn't dare," I blurted, trying to sound confident, though my stomach was twisting. Mark leaned closer. "I dare. One night. If you win, everyone will owe you drinks for a month." That was all it took. My pride, my curiosity, and some foolish bravado collided, and I said yes. The preparation was both thrilling and terrifying. I stared at my reflection in the mirror for hours, trying to transform myself into someone else, someone unrecognizable yet enticing. Makeup became a tool for magic, foundation to soften my jawline, concealer to hide the stubble that still lingered, blush to bring warmth to my cheeks. Eyeshadow and eyeliner made my eyes appear larger, more expressive, more feminine. Then came the wig, long, flowing, chestnut brown, brushing my shoulders. I tugged it into place, adjusting the part, fluffing the curls. My own hair hidden beneath it, I could barely recognize the person staring back at me. Finally, the outfit. A tight but elegant dress, hugging my torso and flaring slightly at the waist, paired with heels that made me teeter slightly but forced me to walk differently, more gracefully. Accessories, a delicate necklace, dangling earrings, and suddenly, I was no longer just me. I was someone new. Someone he wouldn't expect. I practiced my walk, my voice, even my laughter. Every detail mattered. When I finally took a step back, I hardly recognized my own reflection. The thrill was intoxicating, but so was the fear. The day of the date, I felt like I was walking a tightrope. I left the apartment with shaky hands and a fluttering stomach, every step weighted with anxiety and excitement. He was already there when I arrived, waiting outside the cafe. I could see him scanning the crowd, oblivious to the transformation that was about to shock him. I took a deep breath, adjusted my dress, and walked toward him, letting my heels click purposefully against the pavement. His head turned. His eyes widened. For a heartbeat, I thought he wouldn't recognize me. And then, he didn't. Hi," he said, voice uncertain. I smiled, tilting my head slightly. "Hi," I purred, voice soft, feminine, teasing. His gaze roamed over me, confused, intrigued, a flicker of realization that didn't yet reach the surface. "Wait, are you?" I shook my head playfully. "Just someone new. Thought I'd surprise you." The date itself was a roller coaster. I walked differently, spoke differently, laughed differently. Every gesture, every glance, every word was carefully measured, and yet, I found myself relaxing, enjoying the power of anonymity, the thrill of being someone unrecognizable yet undeniably captivating. People noticed. He noticed. He tried to search for familiar signs, posture, mannerisms, but everything was masked beneath layers of makeup, costume, and attitude. The cafe was small, intimate, and the reactions of passers-by added to the thrill. Eyes lingered, whispers floated, and I could feel a subtle confidence blooming inside me. I was playing a game of identity and disguise, and for once, I was winning. Halfway through the evening, as we shared dessert, I noticed his attention fully captured by me. He leaned closer, smiling, leaning on the table, clearly drawn in. "You're amazing," he said, and I couldn't help but laugh softly. "Thanks," I replied, brushing my hair back from my face, relishing the power of this new persona. And in that moment, I realized something profound. This wasn't just a dare, a game, or a joke. This was a revelation. A glimpse into a side of myself I had never explored, a bold, playful, empowered side that could command attention and curiosity effortlessly. After the date, walking home, I let the wig fall slightly over my shoulders, the heels clicking with rhythm against the sidewalk. The night air was cool, but I felt hot with exhilaration. I had dared to crossdress for a night. And in doing so, I discovered that the world could see me differently, powerful, alluring, captivating, and I could see myself that way too. The best part? He didn't recognize me. Not fully. And I realized that sometimes being someone else, even temporarily, can teach you the most about who you really are. The next morning, looking in the mirror, I removed the wig, washed off the makeup, and studied my reflection. The thrill lingered. The confidence lingered. I realized I had crossed a threshold. I wasn't just me anymore. I was someone capable of reinvention, of boldness, of exploring every hidden side of my identity without shame. Sometimes, the best dares aren't about impressing others. They're about discovering the parts of yourself you've never dared to meet, and realizing they're worth embracing. That night, I texted my friends, I did it. And he didn't recognize me. Best dare ever. The replies flooded in, laughing emojis, shocked emojis, hearts. But I didn't just feel the thrill of winning the dare. I felt the thrill of owning myself, of exploring, of daring to become someone bold, playful, and completely unforgettable. And deep down, I knew this wasn't the last time I'd cross these boundaries. Because once you discover how exhilarating it feels to fully step into someone new, even for just a night, you never forget the power that comes with it. The morning after accepting the dare, I woke up with a strange mix of excitement and dread. My body felt different somehow, more aware, more sensitive, or maybe it was just my mind replaying the idea of walking through the world as someone entirely new. Even simple routines became complicated. Going to the corner store for coffee felt like navigating a minefield. Every reflection startled me, a glimpse of my own face, hair, hands, suddenly feeling foreign, teasing me with the possibility of transformation. At work, the ripple effect hit immediately. I had always been casual about my appearance, blending in with the guys, keeping to myself. But now, I found myself experimenting subtly, a longer sleeve here, a softer tone of voice there. Coworkers glanced at me a little longer than usual, eyes flickering with curiosity or confusion. Did you do something different? My friend Jason asked, tilting his head, eyebrows raised. You look different. I laughed nervously. Nothing, just experimenting, I said, though my stomach was in knots. Even my casual hangouts with friends changed. The playful teasing from Mark suddenly felt loaded with tension. I could feel the weight of the dare looming over me, coloring every glance and every word. I found myself constantly aware of my posture, my gestures, my expressions. The mirror became both friend and tormentor, reflecting a version of me I barely recognized yet couldn't resist exploring. And then there were the whispers, subtle, almost imperceptible, when I walked past strangers on the street or entered a cafe. Look at him. Wait, what? I caught bits of conversations, fleeting glances, the uncertainty in people's eyes. Each one made my heart race. Fear and exhilaration mingled, creating a cocktail of adrenaline that left me both terrified and oddly empowered. Everywhere I went, my mind was a constant rehearsal. How should I walk? How should I speak? What if someone recognized me too soon? Or worse, what if they judged me? The world suddenly felt like a stage, and I was performing a role I'd never practiced before. By the end of that day, I realized something. The dare wasn't just a joke. It was a challenge that reached beyond clothing and makeup. It was testing my confidence, my courage, my ability to inhabit a version of myself I had never dared to explore. And despite the fear, despite the embarrassment, a small thrill began to bloom inside me. The first spark of excitement that maybe, just maybe, I could pull this off. Once I was alone in my apartment, the real exploration began. The moment the door clicked shut behind me, I felt like I could finally breathe, and also like I was standing on the edge of something dangerous and thrilling. I approached the mirror cautiously, my heart pounding. My hands hovered over the makeup kit I had bought earlier that week, still trembling slightly with anticipation. Foundation first. As I blended it into my skin, I could feel the contours of my face softening, shadows fading, a subtle transformation I hadn't expected to be so exhilarating. My fingers lingered on my cheeks, tracing the warmth of my own skin, marveling at how different I already felt. Next came the eyes. I held the eyeliner pencil in my hand like a wand, nervous but curious. A steady line along my lid, a little flick at the end, and suddenly my gaze felt sharper, more expressive. Eyeshadow added depth, mascara lengthened my lashes, and with each brushstroke, I felt more alive, more like someone entirely new. The wig was the final piece. long, chestnut hair that cascaded over my shoulders, framing my face in ways I had only seen on magazine covers. I adjusted it, fluffed the curls, and stepped back. The reflection staring back at me wasn't the same person who had laughed nervously with Mark days ago. It was someone confident, teasing, and undeniably feminine. I started experimenting with voice and gestures. Alone in the apartment, I practiced speaking in higher tones, softening my words, letting my laughter sound lighter, playful, almost flirtatious. I moved differently, tilting my head, swaying slightly as I walked around the living room, feeling the fabric of the skirt brush against my legs, each motion both foreign and thrilling. I twirled in front of the mirror, testing the sway of the skirt, laughing at the sensation. Some nights I felt pure joy, spinning and watching my reflection become someone completely new. Other nights, doubts crept in. Fear that I would never be able to pull this off, that I'd be exposed, that people would judge. But each time, a flicker of excitement surged through me, stronger than the fear. I tried different combinations of outfits, textures, and accessories. Silk blouses, lace skirts, heels that made me wobble at first, delicate necklaces and dangling earrings. Each detail mattered, and each experiment revealed another fragment of the person I could be. By the end of the week, I had perfected a routine. Makeup, wig, outfit, accessories, even posture and gestures. My apartment became a playground of discovery. Every mirror became a confidant, every outfit a new personality to explore. I realized something crucial. This wasn't just a dare anymore. It was a revelation. I was discovering sides of myself I had never allowed to exist in the light. The thrill wasn't just about being someone else. It was about finding freedom in that someone else, and in the process, uncovering parts of myself I had never met before. And for the first time, I didn't just feel curious or playful. I felt powerful. I felt in control. I felt unstoppable. The first time I stepped outside fully dressed, it felt like stepping onto another planet. My apartment had been a safe playground, but the street was a stage with real eyes, real judgments, real consequences. My heart raced with every step. I had chosen my outfit with care, a form-fitting dress that hugged my curves just enough, a soft pastel color that made my skin glow, and heels that made me wobble slightly but forced me to adjust my posture. I caught my reflection in a shop window and froze. The person staring back was unrecognizable. My own face, softened and defined by makeup, framed by the wig I had mastered over the week. The world reacted immediately. Strangers glanced, some lingering longer than necessary. Whispers floated past me in the park. Even casual greetings felt loaded with curiosity. My palms sweated inside my gloves as I walked, but somewhere in that nervous energy, a thrill sparked, a powerful, intoxicating excitement that I hadn't expected. I went to the cafe where my date was supposed to meet me. I arrived early, letting my heels click loudly against the pavement, feeling the sway of my skirt, letting myself be seen without fear. The barista's double-take made me grin under the wig. This was my stage now, and I was ready. Even outside my planned date, I began experimenting with smaller interactions, asking strangers for directions, making casual conversation with shopkeepers, laughing with friends on the sidewalk. Each interaction was a test, a tiny rehearsal in public, and each small success, a compliment, a smile, a lingering glance, fueled my confidence. I started noticing subtle changes in my behavior. I walked taller, shoulders back, chest slightly forward. I spoke softer, teasingly, letting my voice roll like a melody I had only begun to explore. And with every step, every word, I realized I was embodying a version of myself I hadn't known existed, bold, playful, undeniably feminine. At the park one afternoon, I found myself twirling in the sunlight, letting the breeze lift my skirt slightly, letting strangers' glances brush past me without fear. A passerby smiled and nodded at me, a small affirmation that being visible, being myself in this new persona, was not just possible, it was empowering. Even casual evenings became part of the experiment. I would write notes about posture, outfit combinations, makeup tweaks, and voice inflections. My journal became a record of progress, of victories and small setbacks, and a reminder that transformation wasn't just about the exterior. It was about confidence, courage, and learning to move through the world on my own terms. By the end of the first month, I realized I wasn't just testing a dare anymore. I was exploring an identity, expanding the boundaries of who I could be. And with each step outside, each glance, each whispered compliment or curious look, I felt a profound shift inside. Fear giving way to exhilaration, hesitation giving way to confidence, and self-doubt replaced with self-discovery. I wasn't just preparing for the date anymore. I was preparing to embrace this new self fully, both on that one night and beyond. The thrill of anonymity had transformed into the thrill of authenticity, and I was ready to see how far I could take it. The night of the date arrived, and with it, a storm of nerves and anticipation. I had rehearsed every step, every gesture, every line I might say, but nothing could fully prepare me for the reality of him seeing me, or rather not seeing me for the first time. I arrived at the cafe, my heels clicking against the pavement, my dress swaying just right, hair perfectly framing my face. The moment I stepped inside, my heart did a full flip. There he was, sitting at the corner table, scanning the room casually, unaware that the person he'd been expecting was about to be someone completely different. I felt my pulse hammering in my ears as I walked toward him. Every step was deliberate, graceful, teasing. I caught his eye, and his expression froze. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then confusion, flickering with curiosity. Hi. His voice wavered slightly. I smiled softly, tilting my head just so. Hi, I said, my voice lighter, melodic, teasing. He blinked, leaned back in his chair, trying to reconcile the person he knew with the stranger before him. Wait, is that you? He stammered, a mixture of disbelief and intrigue. I shook my head playfully. Just someone new. Thought I'd surprise you. The date began, and every word, every laugh, every gesture became a high-wire act. I flirted, teased, and charmed, feeling the rush of being entirely unseen yet entirely noticed at the same time. His eyes darted between confusion and fascination, and I could see him trying, and failing, to find familiar patterns, the familiar me he once knew. When dessert arrived, he leaned in closer, his gaze locked on me. You're amazing, he said softly, almost breathless. And in that moment, I realized the true power of this transformation wasn't in tricking him. It was in discovering a side of myself I had never dared to show. Every laugh, every gesture, every confident tilt of my head reinforced something I had felt creeping inside me for weeks. I was no longer just the person who had nervously accepted a dare. I was someone bold, playful, captivating, and utterly free to explore identity on my own terms. There were moments when I caught myself faltering, when fear crept in. What if he realized too soon? What if he judged me? But each time I reminded myself, the dare was never about deceiving him. It was about revealing a part of me that had been waiting silent, longing to be discovered. By the end of the night, the tension had transformed into exhilaration. He was mesmerized, intrigued, captivated, and I was empowered, confident, and alive in a way I had never imagined. I had crossed a line that once terrified me, and on the other side was freedom. When we said goodnight, he reached out, still unsure, still fascinated. I can't believe it. Wow, he said, a little breathless. I smiled knowingly, leaning slightly closer. Sometimes, the best surprises teach you more about yourself than anyone else. Walking home afterward, the city lights blurred past, heels clicking rhythmically, I felt a surge of triumph. The dare had pushed me to the edge, to fear, to vulnerability, and I had leapt. And on the other side of that leap, I had discovered a new version of myself, daring, playful, empowered, and utterly unstoppable.